So we have Mario Guzman, the CEO of Sherbinskis, aka Mr. Sherbinski, the master cultivator behind some of the most revered cannabis genetics on the planet. Mr. Sherbinski is known as a cannabis tastemaker, and his brand Sherbinskis is known worldwide as a cult favorite with genetics like Sunset, Sherbert, and the Gelato line. Sherbinski is known for his impeccable ability to pheno hunt. Gelato and Sunset have been some of his most talked about, most in-demand strains on the California market. Welcome, Mario. Joining him today is Brian Malin, the founder and CEO of Vital Garden Supply, which is a family-run business that sells premium organic soils, fertilizers, amendments, and greenhouses. Vital Garden Supply has been serving the conscious cannabis community for 15 years, and Brian is a pioneer in the organic compost, tea, and soil food web movement. With more than 30 years of organic growing experience, Brian is very knowledgeable about organic pest management, light deprivation greenhouses, and organic nutrient programs. So guys, I know we're a little bit late getting started. We have a little bit of flexibility, so feel free to take it a little past 3:15 if you're able. So I'll hand it over to you guys. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Hey guys, big ups to everybody. I just want to say this before I get on. Doesn't David look like a global house DJ in his screen? I definitely think he's like Indonesia or something. Anyways, thanks for having me, David. It's an honor and a privilege to speak in front of a lot of old faces, not figuratively, but people I've known, and a lot of new faces. Mandy, went to high school with Mandy, so some people I've known for a long time, and worked in this industry, so thanks for having me. Yeah, I think Brian and I decided I'm gonna give just a quick rundown. Some of you know who I am, some of you don't. Just wanted to give you a quick idea of how I got started and my position in the industry, and then how I started working with Brian. But early 2000s, late 90s, moved to the Bay Area. I'm a real estate agent by trade at the time, and the real estate market in early 2000 wasn't doing very well. So long story short, I lived in the San Francisco Sunset District, where, a lot of people were cultivating at that time. This is, Prop 215 was in place, but this was, I think SB 420 was implemented in 2004. So that's when the legal framework for individuals like myself, who maybe had a little experience, were a handyman, knew how to get their hands dirty, maybe had, access to some cool genetics because they were in the Bay Area or in, Humboldt, where everything really started. And I got Ed Rosenthal's book down on Haight Street, and I think the Marijuana Grow Bible, I think it's called. And I got lucky with a friend and got some AFGU genetics, and I built my little 3-light room in my garage. And fast forward, what I'm proud of is I was part of that inner fabric of that beginning of that relationship between the urban farmer and these newly found dispensaries. Obviously, there was a few that had been around in the 90s, but this was really at the boom. Ended up printing out from the San Francisco Department of Health, like 10 dispensaries that were in San Francisco at the time. I ended up finding a great relationship with Martin from the Vapor Room. And to this day, Martin, been everything he's been through, from aneurysms to bad partnerships. He's still in the game. Very proud of that relationship. But I learned compassion essentially through that journey, and seeing all the people that would frequent the dispensary that I would provide flower to. And suddenly it wasn't about money, and it wasn't about the hustle. It was about helping people, and all the stories of people come and say, hey, you really make a difference. I love your flower. I like this and that. I was lucky enough to work with the Cookie Fam. Subsequently, not too many years later, Cookies clothing line wasn't even out yet. Cookies had some buzz, but ended up breeding with the Cookies genetics. And then we created Sunset Sherbert. We created Pink Panties. Pink Panties was the parent to the Sunset Sherbert. And this was all in my little garage girl's grandma's house. Little rental here in the Sunset, here and there. A lot of experimenting when it comes to the breeding. I didn't know anything. By far, I'm not a master breeder. I'm not a master cultivator. But I have a great relationship with plants, and I'm very hands-on. I'm dyslexic. So what I've learned about myself is having that connection with the plants and being able to take action with what I do and how I work has really helped me develop, my skills with what I believe is pheno hunting and having that sixth sense of what I feel is people are gonna like. So anyways, that's a quick story, the Prop 215, how I got working with really good genetics. I'll get into a little bit more of the breeding, like the garage breeding, but I want to talk about a bigger project that I was able to do with a Pomo Indian tribe and sort of how I met Brian. And I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Brian, but just to let you know how I met Brian. So I was always known for my indoor cultivation. And 5 years ago, before Sherbinskis started, that was the year we started Sherbinskis, but I had broke away from Cookie Fam, was starting to do my own thing. I was already well known as an indoor grower on my own. I was growing pretty much the majority of the flower for Cookie Fam at that time. That was going to all markets. But at that time, my business partner had an opportunity, and we were going to do an investment with Cookies. But at that time, they took me up to a property up in Hopland. The Pomo Indian tribe showed me an absolutely beautiful couple of acres that was flat. It was up on a nice area. And they said, hey, we really want to, start something with you. And so we started Sherbinskis. I didn't know anything about outdoor growing, but everything we started was based on, at that time, how I felt that not only did I want to work with the tribe, because I thought that was just super fucking cool, and what better way to give back, because I love the community and to work with the people that actually, curated a lot of this medicine, for hundreds of years. So that excited me, and everybody was telling me don't do it at the time, saying, oh, they're not licensed, they're crooks, you're gonna lose this, you're gonna lose that, and I didn't listen to anybody. All I knew is that, and I'm proud to say that we were the second state licensed Native American tribe in the state of California. So not only did I not listen, and I encourage all of you, all the people, and I missed a lot of everything you guys talked about, but shout out to everybody that puts in all that work to enable the legislation and the different cities and states to be able to follow lead and all the hard work that you put in. So shout out to everybody in the room. Fast forward, loved, and then also obviously on the land, I was figuring out, all right, how am I going to grow? Am I going to use nutrients, organic? I didn't know shit about it. And then I started thinking to myself, wait, I can't, obviously we need to preserve this land. These are natives we're talking about. So for 5 years, we've been trucking in all our water. My water bill last week was $10,000. So to give you an idea of how much we spent on water to not tap into the resources there. So that's one thing we did. The other thing is I called Brian, and I was referred to him by someone, or I forget exactly who introduced us, Brian, but Brian's the kind of guy, and Brian's well known in the industry. He's like I said, he's been growing forever, but he really is hands on. I didn't know shit, and I literally said, man, I'm embarrassed. I don't know how to grow outdoor, but can you help me? And he literally held my hand from day one. His product line, he knows it front and back, always working on developing new products, introducing new organic products into the industry. So met Brian. There's more I want to go from there, but I want to introduce you to Brian. Brian, maybe you can speak a little bit on that and kind of like what you remember about how we got started, and maybe talk a little bit about your nutrient line and how all that got going. But take it away, Brian.
Appreciate it, Mario. I have vivid memories of those times and days. First of all, thank you so much for, reaching out to me, because, that experience helped me get, to where I am now. And I learned a lot to be able to help all these growers who have grown on the commercial scale so much larger. At the time when you presented that opportunity to me, I was like, whoa, this is big. Like, I've worked with a lot of different growers on many different levels, but to actually have a space on the native land that we knew that we were safe and we were able to do what we can do, it was super exciting. And then Mario having the conscience to go organic made me really think that this was going to be an amazing project. So yeah, I remember the first time meeting these guys up there, walking the land and checking the water sources and seeing what direction the sun rises and which direction it sets, and just like feeling the energy of the land and just trying to see the dynamics of the entire project so I could wrap my head around the best way to, come up with a plan. Mario was super generous and like trusting me with such a big project, and he believed in me, and with that I felt the pressure to execute, and fortunately it's worked out. Mario's still using the same program here. I think this is the fifth or sixth year?
Fifth year.
Fifth year, and
And
I think it's every year it's improved a little bit. We're learning from different dynamics and different things. That project up there has inspired a new product that I have that's going to be launching. One of the things that we've learned over the years is it's really important to clean your irrigation lines. Of all the different things that we've learned, that's something that I still have to instill in people, the importance of making sure you don't leave anything dirty in those black lines that are cooking in the sun day in and day out. Mario and I learned the hard way a little bit, but fortunately we didn't lose too much. But there was a couple plants at a certain point that were starting to droop, and we were trying to figure out why are these ones drooping and all the rest look so great. And I forget exactly what it was, but somehow I noticed a smell coming out of one of the irrigation lines, and that smell was like putrid. And being an organic advocate and knowing my manure and compost and guanos, and I know what should smell good and what shouldn't, and that was like that's gone bad. So we realized that because it was such a big field, the amount that we were flushing those lines with wasn't quite enough, because those lines held so much water and so on and so forth. So we figured that one out, checked that one off the list, flushed those lines, and then we actually saw a turnaround in the plants that were even looking a little bit affected by it, and then no other ones were affected. So trial and error has been like a huge thing for Vital Garden Supply and for me, and for I think all of us as we scale up. And I feel lucky to have been involved in such a big project. I feel like I've learned so much, and I'm also, because Vital Garden Supply sells to so many different farmers, I'm able to hear so many different techniques, so many different horror stories, so many different success stories, and accumulate that knowledge so I could help growers succeed. And that's one of the things I teach all my employees and my team is, all of our growers and all of our customers and all of our people, their success is as important to us as it is to them. Because if they don't have success, they're not going to come back. They're not going to be telling other people about us. And eventually there won't be anyone left. So success in cannabis is it's not one of those things where you want to be successful above the next guy. We all need to be successful together. And I really appreciate that about Mario's approach too. He's always been like the guy who's like wants to share the wealth, share the spotlight, share the knowledge. And he's done some great things, and the whole organic approach is like super awesome. I don't know if everybody knows it, but 2021 CDFA is going to have a certification for organic cannabis. I'm really excited about this. I've been 15 years looking forward to this. My product line is all certified organic, so I've been preparing myself for this. My farm, which is in Mendocino, just a little bit north of Mario's there in Hopland, mine's outside of Willits. We've been using only our product line, and I'm looking forward to actually getting this organic certification from the state. Right now we are Enviro-Organic certified, which we hold highly in regard as an important certification just to show our commitment to organics. The whole organic approach, I think, is something that has yet to even been appreciated by the cannabis industry, because with the whole switchover from 64 to 215, or from 215 to 64, sorry, there's just been so much excitement and so many waves about rec market and all the different rules, people kind of forgot that, hey, how are people growing this cannabis? Like, what's the differences? Why is some this expensive? Why does some look like this? Why does some smell better? So just like the produce industry went through a big change in the late 80s, early 90s of the desire of the customers to really ask for organic, I feel like it's my mission to begin to start educating consumers of cannabis, not just the growers. The growers, that's been a 15-year mission, and it'll continue. But we feel like we've made a lot of progress converting synthetic salt use growers over to organic practices. 100%. Some have cut it down. I feel like that's one of my biggest accomplishments is cutting down petroleum-based products use on cannabis and in agriculture. So that'll continue to be my mission, but we also now need to remind the consumers to ask for organic and learn, what the differences are.
Word.
Hope I didn't rant too much on the organic thing, but that's my mission here.
No, I love it, Brian. I love it, Brian. And this is Brian every day, all day, and also Brian's literally one of the hardest working guys I know in the industry. And I don't just say that. I don't know how many shows you do every year. COVID's been a little different, but Brian is really out there. He's constantly networking and pushing organic growing. To me, he carries the flag in this industry, and he has for many years. So I'll go on and on. But one of the things, guys, this was one of the topics obviously was about breeding. And I thought about it, and obviously anybody's in this room that's done any breeding, if they've done a little tent breeding or they've done some small projects, I don't think I can share a lot of knowledge when it comes to that. We'll get into a little bit of that, but I wanted to share something cool that I did, and how it relates to Brian and how it relates to this tribal land and good energy and vibrations, which is the center of everything I try to push forward in this industry, and good intention. So a couple years ago, there were some fires. I don't know if it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago, but up in Hopland, I had got a little container. And just to let you guys know, obviously, when you're breeding in a place that you're flowering, you always have to be very careful because obviously pollen can travel miles. And so no one wants seeds in their cannabis that they're smoking. So it's a big concern, and it happens even with the best breeders I know that try to be super careful, and they've got every filter doubled and tripled. It can happen. So one of the things I did, and depending on, I did this in the summer. So by the time I finished doing this breeding project, it was end of July. So for my outdoor, there wasn't any chance of anything getting pollinated. So, and in any time that you're not flowering, if you're a year round growing, it's different. But if you're seasonal, make sure you get all this done like before you start flowering. But in a small container, like a 20-footer, for about less than $15,000, you can have power, you can have 6 lights or so. All you really need is like 3 15s, a little dehumidifier, and that's basically it. You go in about 5 feet, you build a wall, and then you have a door that goes in so you can control the environment. The best ones are the high Qs. If you want to, that's a 40-footer. Those are about $7-8 grand, a little bit more, but they're insulated. So you literally can have that out in 110-degree heat, and it keeps the inside pretty cold, and everything is, metal on the inside. So these are great for little breeding chambers that if you're on a farm, if you're anywhere, you can get a container delivered right to your farm. And then you have your electrician come, and you have but I've bred in these things many times, and they're great tools. So a couple years ago up in Hopland, I did a little project. I took all the original, and guys, I'm not proud of this, but I've probably done 5 breeding projects, and I've done big pheno hunts, and if it's not as good as the gelato or sherbets or better, then it doesn't make it. Obviously I can't bring lightning struck when we made the gelato, but it doesn't strike all the time. So obviously that's a tough part of my experiments and the breeding that I've been doing. But I partnered with, I got an OGTT Mandelbrot male from Ross from HSO. I had all my original genetics, pink panties, all the gelatos, Jello, Bacho, Mochi. And I took that male back to all the originals. And I had about 2 plants of each pheno in the container. And I probably got, the Jello didn't take very well. I probably only got a couple hundred from those. But on the Bacho, I probably got like 5,000, 6,000. So even in a very small project like that, you can use tents as well. If you got a little warehouse, you can outfit those. You don't need a lot of plants. So I got about, I don't know, 30,000 seeds out of that small little container. And last year, I did a 2,600 seed pheno hunt outdoors at the Pomo Indian tribe, their res there. And again, intention, vibrations, the breeding was done there, the pheno hunt was done there. And what I wanted to share was, first of all, I found gelato out of 100 seeds in the bottom of a black garbage bag. I had 15 pounds of it all seeded out, all trimmed, all ready to go. But I was sitting there smoking a joint on a 5-gallon bucket in my garage. And there was a bunch of stems and shit. And I was like, there's got to be some seeds in there. So I dug in the bottom and I pulled out about 100 seeds. Those are the only seeds that I ever popped. So, just to give you a little history on that. So now I have 2,600 seeds. Holy shit, I'm going to do this amazing pheno hunt. So popped them all out there, got everything going, recorded the whole process from the initial prayers. When I hold the seeds in my hand and I pray for amazing medicine for the world and for our community and to share. And I pray for good intentions, that it will reach many people and it will heal. Pop the beans, watch them all the way through. So what I wanted to share is, when you're in the tents and you're in the small things, yes, you can breed, but it's hard when you have 5,000 seeds or whatever it is. If you're selling seeds, that's one thing, but if you're pheno hunting, you don't need many seeds because you can't house hundreds and thousands of plants indoor, and then you're risking pollinating your other plants. So we did it outdoor, and 2,600 seeds. I pulled out approximately almost half males, maybe like 40% males. So during this process, when they really start to trigger, you can look in and you can see it starts to show the sex, the little sacs for the males. And as soon as you start seeing that and you don't see the hairs, that's the first process. Again, for me, it's with a selective breeding, I always look at growth. If it's lagging, this is just me personally, it doesn't always mean that it's going to be the best flower. But if it's slow and it's not moving along, you're out of there. If you don't have symmetry, and if I can't tell, like, I'm going to cut this clone, it's going to be rooted in 6 days, like, it's out of there. So growth rate is one of the biggest things I look at in the beginning, symmetry. So by that time, I went from 1,300 females, cuts down to 800, 700 just on growth rate, symmetry. And then I dialed that down. Obviously I'm cutting while these are growing up, before they're flowering, I'm cutting clones off of all of them. So I had like 800 and something moms, because we had 865 sites. So I had 865 moms. Actually, that's not true. I did about 300 plants of their old phenos. The rest of them are all the new genetics. So that's the next step of the selection. Going down from there, keeping the mothers the whole time is very challenging. You're outside, you're dealing with all the elements. So just to fast forward for the sake of time right now, all my phenos, this year, that was last year. This year, we ran a lot of the best ones from last year to see what they're going to do this year. And what I did, and the point and the nugget I want to give you is, whatever they do outdoors, they're going to show you, to me, the sun and Mother Nature is going to give you the full genetic profile that God intended to have. Indoor, we're only giving it a weak attempt at what Mother Nature does. So a lot of people argue with me about this, but I think I've proven it to be true. And I'm not the first one to do this, but what I did do this year is when I finally whittled it down to like the best 50 plants that I saw, and this was based off of yield, bag appeal, color, terpene profile. So then I did a partnership with Abstracts, and Abstracts did a full, and they've got like a $600,000 machine that one of the only ones in the world that can give you a 3D view of the terpene profile. And so what I mean by 3D is previous terpene analysis was in 2D. So a lot of these monoterpenes and these little flavonoids and things that shape the flavor, you couldn't see them because in a test they would line up like this, but then you couldn't see the ones that were hiding and what exactly they were. So I did a full, so on those 40, actually it was I think 100 that they ended up doing, but full THC analysis, full terpene profiles, and they were able to, they just developed something, the growers collection, where they have a gas factor and a fruit factor, which, you know, obviously if it's OG leaning, which is a big dominant, and also like the cookies, I mean, the gelato lineage that's being heavily bred into everything now. And so you're able to kind of identify what it is and you get a marker. So I was able to use the human senses, which is, you know, what I experience when I touch it, the breakdown, the feel, the smell, the way it makes you feel when you smoke. But then I was able to pair that with science and really look at what the data told me from what I'm seeing compared to what I'm feeling. And it was amazing how intertwined they are, and I had some surprises too. Sometimes I thought that some things would be higher potency and they really weren't. So the other thing is, by doing these tests, you can really look at the extraction yields when it comes to, I'm new to this, I'm not extraction, I'm a flower guy, but I'm sure many of you understand now that, you know, the percentage of what you're yielding, whether it's, you know, hash or with the concentrates, you know, this is very important. So outdoor, where I'm going with it is you take all this data and then you take those phenos, like those last 40 phenos I have, and this is a challenge for me now, is running all those indoor now. And I've been doing like 4 here, 5 here, but then you can really see like what you get outdoors, it really tells you a lot of what you're gonna get indoor. And I think that was one of the biggest things is that I wanted to figure out is like, hey, can I do these big pheno hunts outdoors instead of doing everything indoor, and can I still really find the nuggets, and is this data all gonna like match up? And I'm finding that it is. So I did it on a larger scale, but you can also you do this on a smaller scale, little hobby gardeners, or if you're at your house, you can have something in your garage, you can cross something, you know, with a male. I don't recommend using a male on feminized seeds or feminized things that come from, you know, I've learned that doesn't always give you the most stability. But yeah, I'm really happy. We've got a bunch of new selections, more than we know what to do with. Now I'm cataloging it. Everything is a number, and using that data and that information, you know, for my own IP under Sherbinskis. And then also wrapping my mind around different ways and creative ways to use that data, you know, for our IP. So anybody that is developing any genetics, or if you guys want to send me an email or anything, you know, we can talk a little bit more about that on some of the things I'm doing to secure my IP when it comes to the genetics as well. I've got more if we need to. You know, tell you guys a little bit of history. We're all getting a little older, sadly and gratefully, but you know, going back to the early 2000s, it was a wonderful energy in San Francisco and the Bay Area. You know, an exciting time. You know, a lot of compassion, a lot of art, a lot of great food. You know, the vibration in the Bay Area has changed a lot, you know, with the introduction of the tech industry and, you know, all of the changes that we're seeing, and now COVID. But back then it was a special time when there was a tremendous entrepreneurial spirit, which has always driven the cannabis community. But, you know, meeting people like Frenchie, hey Frenchie, see you brother, you know, meeting people that have dedicated their lives to this plant and the medicine. And at that, in the early 2000s, I didn't meet Frenchie till later, but people like him that to me have Maya from Om Edibles, whether it's Jigga, I go on and on of these characters in the Bay Area that like were there at that time. And there was no licenses, there was no testing. It was either you were putting the love into it and you were putting good product that when you brought it to that dispensary owner, it was like they either knew, like it was all about what the customers gave you the feedback. If they're like, man, this is burning great, this is phenomenal, this is good medicine, everything was built on that. And I think like it was just, I'm so glad that I was able to be a part of that. And I think like for Sherbinskis, and why I decided to start Sherbinskis is because I think as this industry grows and I chose early on that I wanted to be part of this evolution. There was a lot of old school growers that fought it, and a lot of them regret it today because they really lost out on a lot of opportunity. But I just knew that I wanted to be part of the solution. I didn't want to be part of the problem. And it's still been a crazy uphill battle because obviously with all the regulations and all the hoops we have to jump through, it's designed to take us out of the game. And I'm just grateful that through everything, I want to carry the message of compassion as so many of us do in this industry in our own unique way and how we're able to contribute. And for Sherbinskis to always represent, to me, what Prop 215, that stands on the shoulders of giants like Dennis Perone, guys that birthed this movement out of compassion. And I just always want to be a voice for that, especially now. I think after COVID and all of us waking up that are in the industry and going, shit, am I going to have a job? And then we realize that during one of the most difficult times that all of us have ever faced globally, that we not only are we still standing, but we are essential. And even more now, the medicine that we provide is I think doing more than any of us could ever imagine for our communities, and helping them stay off other drugs and stay off alcohol during this very challenging time. So just want to always, work arm in arm with everybody. Like shout out to David. Since I met David, always just his passion and his ear to ear smile is contagious, and and just love the energy, man. I think that's why a lot of us support you and what you're doing. And anyways, just more than anything, wanted to share that part of it, and really kind of what brought me into like my love for the plant. And it really all, and breeding and everything has always just been about putting good intent out there and helping people. So much love to everybody.
Big up, Mario. David was also the first distributor to help Vital Grown for our first actual unveiling of our flower brand for Emerald Cup back in the days when we were able to have events. Meadow Distribution was the service that helped us bring that to the public. So really cool that I'm able to connect with you again, David. That was awesome. And if anybody ever needs help trying to convert from their salt-based or synthetic nutrient style of growing over to organic, give me a shout. I'd love to share my knowledge. I'd love to help more people go down that road. Sooner than later, I think a lot of these big brands and a lot of companies are going to want to have at least an organic division. I'm the guy to help you get there. And anything else I can do to help growers succeed, reach out. Vital Garden Supply, Vital Grown. We're here for you.
Guys, thank you so much for being here. We got a couple questions in the chat. If you have a couple minutes, can we field a few?
Sure.
Awesome. Jackie asked, what rules of thumb do you have for people who want to grow their 6 plants at home when it comes to buying seeds? How can they know when they're going to get at least 6 girls?
Well, they should definitely pick a trusted genetic company that sells feminized seeds. If they're going to grow from seed, there is the option to choose clones. A lot of dispensaries do sell clones, but if they want those 6 to be female, they definitely should go with a feminized seed or a clone.
Sounds smart. Okay, cool. One more question. Last night we heard about the fires and how they've affected the plants. One of the panelists shared that their post-fire testing showed that the cannabinoid levels went down, but that interestingly, the terpene content went up. Have you found anything similar? And do you have any tips for folks who are trying to clean ash off of buds?
That is.
Well,
and I'm all ears, Brian. If the go up,
I don't know how to address that one.
I'm just honestly, I'm in Hopland and there's a lot of smoke. I don't really know how it's going to affect. There's a little bit of ash. What I've heard is that we don't want the water to hit the ash because that's when it's bad. There's supposed to be like in 9 days or something, there's supposed to maybe be like a little rain up there. But we're going crazy right now, getting ready to chop down. And hopefully by the end of the week, it's all down. But you know what we do is if anybody has some real data on this, or I've heard from people that the smoke, when it comes to the grapes and the winery and Napa and stuff, that people aren't buying crops but I would imagine that the smoke could attach to the outside. And obviously since you're drinking it, that would greatly affect the flavor. I don't know because of the nature of the trichome. I think
the resin protects it some. I mean, I think there's definitely a scare depending how close you are to ash, depending on how close you are to smoke. I mean, we obviously have these concerns. You know, we've been harvesting on and off throughout, you know, this fire season, just because we do light up. We have all different things going on. We've done a really gone extra and beyond, above and beyond the call to like blow everything before we bring it into our drying room, so we're not bringing ash into the area where the cannabis is going to be dried. I've done a lot of sniff testing and I'm not really picking up a smoke smell. I mean, a big concern I have for everybody is like with all this smoke and all this particulate matter, is that heavy metals? I mean, are there pesticides? Like, is it gonna, you know, contaminate it? You know, like these are all, you know, really, you know, justified concerns. But the answer is that we all have a lot to learn because this is all new stuff. And, you know, as we learn stuff, we're glad to share the information. I've done some testing very recently on product that had just been harvested and it's still clean. I'm not seeing heavy metals. It passed all the, you know, pesticides, heavy metals.
Did it have any ash on it, Brian?
Say that again?
Did it have any ash on it?
You know, we had ash, but we like I said, we were blowing it real good before we bring it into the dry room. It gets handled, and you know, like we try to make sure no ash is on the finished product. I see no ash. You know, at some point, you know, it dissolves and it may be too small to see. So I don't want to like give any like false sense of security. But everything's testing good. Everything looks good. The smell's good. I mean, I feel like we have to hope for the best. I have heard the rumor that when water combines with ash, it can turn to lye. I don't know how true that really is. I've seen other people rinsing their plants off, and I didn't hear a negative effect about it. The one thing about blowing it, like especially down in your field, is you blow it, but where does it have to go? You know, so it's almost like you blow it, and then maybe you go off of one plant and it goes on to another. So, you know, these dynamics are tricky and weird. And, you know, for the first time in a long time, I've been really thinking like, I love outdoor and I love greenhouse growing. I'm also feeling like the call for indoor and to like show people that organic indoor is a real thing. And that is like, that pencils out and you could like make a business model from it. Because yeah, there's a lot of organic greenhouses and there's a lot of organic outdoor grows. I think that concept's been proven. So between the dynamics of the smoke and the fires and the naysayers who don't think that this organic indoor thing can happen, that's keeping me up at night right now. Like, I need to get an indoor thing going. I want to do an organic indoor. I want to show the people that this style of growing can be done indoor, outdoor. Hopefully sooner than later, these fires are going to clear up, and maybe we'll get a summer where we don't have this issue. But the last several have been rough, man. You know, like
there's not going to be anything left to burn in a couple of years.
Well, I keep thinking that, and then boom, there's like those fires in Chico, like in Paradise, that whole area, it's been burning for like 3 weeks. Like it's shocking, and I don't know where it's all going, but anyone who says there's no global warming doesn't spend any time out here because it's freaking hot. I never remember it being 100 degrees the first week of October, and this whole week has been really hot.
All I know too is if the smoke makes the weed go bad and it doesn't pass testing, there's going to be such a massive shortage of cannabis because the whole state isn't smoked out. So I don't know. I don't think I'm being optimistic, but I think it's going to be okay. Like I really do. Like, I remember a couple years ago when the fires were there, we had ash, we had everything passed flying colors.
Yeah, I remember those fires out there. And that weed was awesome that year. You know, you did great.
Oh, one more thing I wanted to add to the story, which is kind of cool. So when those fires were there, we were about to harvest, or actually all my plants with the seeds were hung in the container drying. And it was an evacuation, and it was literally, my worker showed me a picture of the mountain right over our ridge, and you could see orange flames like coming over. And I was like, grab the fucking plants, get them out of there. We really thought we were going to lose our farm. And so, yeah, those were grown there, snatched out of there, under fire. Here we are, still dealing with this shit. It's like, man, you know, but just praying and sending good energy out there to everybody that has been affected. I'm sure there's people in this room that have family, friends, coworkers, or even maybe your own business that you've lost. Just sending good energy out to everybody. It's not over. You know, I think everybody that's in this room, that's in the industry, we're fighters. We've had everything thrown at us, and COVID and fires are just one more challenge that we need to overcome. So just shout out to everybody, big ups. We're a team, we're strong. Everybody I know in the cannabis industry, we're survivors, we're warriors, and just encourage everybody to keep going strong. Much love.
Yeah, we made it this long. No turning back now.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Dave. That's all I got.
Thank you. That's awesome.
Thanks,
really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate everybody.
Perspective and heart. And that was really felt, and appreciate the knowledge and the wisdom and the shout outs. It's like, that's what we need more of, man. Shout out culture. Just respect to everybody. You know, let's get that going.
We're stronger together than we are apart.
Yes, we are. And
let me add one more thing to that. Like, genetics in this industry has been very cutthroat, very serious. I'm talking about like to a street level where if you want to claim something that you did this or you grew this, like you got to be able to walk the streets of LA and San Francisco, and people are like, motherfucker, your gelato, you made this, and like people check your ass. And so there's been a lot like to get to this point, a lot of fighting. And I've finally come to a point where it's like, man, like the competitiveness is what drove it all. But at some point, it's not what the cannabis industry was built on. It's not what I'm about. It's not how I feel it should go forward. You know, it's collectively, we're all better. And in the end, none of us own any of these genetics. You know, we're stewards to this plant for the time that we're here. I feel like I'm truly like we're guardians of this plant, and it gives so much more to us than we give to it. And we should just all feel lucky and fortunate that we have it in our lives to provide not only medicine, but for a lot of us, like it gives us a roof over our head. So just different perspective, and with years comes wisdom, and through pain comes happiness. So just want to share that last thought, guys. Over and out.
Yeah, we don't need to be territorial.
Yeah, it's that mindset that, you know, whatever slice of the pie you have, the pie is getting bigger. It's an abundance mindset. There's enough for everybody. You know, the entire world needs it. And by the time I think 2030 comes, I mean, I think we're on Mars by then with Elon. So Mars is going to need it. And I think, you know, to Brian's point on just like life missions, I think your next, after your indoor piece, like you should think interplanetary. Like, how are we growing weed on Mars? And then, you know, let's start working backwards there. That'd be dope.
I'll give it a crack.